Alright, welcome back to another video on my channel, math_exe, and today we're going to look at how to solve linear inequalities. So to recall what an inequality is, an equality is a expression, or I would say in something in terms of like so. So we have expression A star expression B, where the star could be one of these four signs. This reads greater than, this reads greater than or equal to, this reads less than, and then this reads less than or equal to. And the star can be replaced with one of these signs. Okay, so the steps are very similar to how you solve a linear equation. So for example, if you have like 3x minus 2 less than 8, and then you can just do this some business right here. So we can just add both sides by 2, and we can just treat this like an equal sign, but there are some like differences that you might consider. So let's look at this. Let's do this example. So we can just cross that and cross that, and we have 3x is less than 10. We can divide both sides by 3, and then we get, I'll just scroll down the board a bit. We have x is less than 10 over 3. Now this is like just an example of what a linear inequality should be. However, there are two tips that I should give you when solving some linear inequalities. So the first one, let's say you have like an expression, and then you just work things out, and then you come to an expression that looks like this. So if negative x is greater than negative 8. So what would you do is you can just divide or multiply both sides by negative 1, right? This is what you do in when solving linear equations. It's just similar, right? So we can just cross this negative 1 with this minus sign, cross this negative 1 with this minus sign, and then we have x is greater than 8. However, this is not in fact the answer, because there's something very special about these inequalities. So I'll just erase this. So what you do is, when you encounter something like this, when you have to divide or multiply by a negative number, we have x. Now this inequality sign flips, and what I mean by flips is what is supposed to be greater than is now less than. And then we can just write things out, and this is the true answer. So that's one thing. If you like divide or multiply by a negative number, the inequality sign flips, or just changes direction, I guess, or whatever you would call it. Okay, for the second tip, let's say you encountered another inequality, and you can just work things out, and then it comes to a conclusion of something like this: 3 is less than x. And what we do, you can just switch the 3 and x, so we can just get x is less than 3. And again, this is not in fact the answer yet again. This is similar to the first tip. If you have something that you need to flip the variable and a constant, you simply just flip the inequality sign like the first one right here. Okay, so those are the two tips that are very essential when dealing with linear inequalities, and let's jump into an example. So here's an example of a linear inequality. So we have 2x minus 3 is greater than x plus 8. So what would you do is you can just isolate the x by subtracting x from both sides. So this and this will cancel, leaving us with 2x minus x, which is just positive x minus 3 is greater than 8. And then again, you can just add 3 on both sides, or we can just subtract by 8 on both sides, whatever you want. As long as you keep an eye of those two tips that I recently gave you. So we're left with a final answer of x is greater than 11. Okay, so let's go in another example of this using one of those two tips that I gave you. Okay, so this is the second example, and what will you do first is this: either subtract by 3x or subtract by 5x. I'll just do it in both ways. I'll just separate this. So by subtracting 3x from both sides, we can get this and that will cancel. So we have just positive 8 on the left hand side, and we have 5x minus 3x is just positive 2x minus 2. And then we can just add 2 on both sides. Just scroll the board down a bit. So we'll have positive 10 on the left hand side and 2x, since this and this will cancel. And then we can just divide 2 by 2 on both sides. So we're left with 5 is less than x, and you can just use the second tip that I gave you. We can just switch the variable in a constant while flipping the inequality sign, so we have x is greater than 5. Okay, for the second method, if you want to subtract negative 5x on both sides, so we have 3x minus 5x, which is just negative 2x, and then plus 8 is less than 5x, and negative 5x will cancel out, and we have negative 2 on the right hand side. Okay, and next we're going to, actually no, I'm going to subtract by 8 on both sides, so this and this will cancel. So I have negative 2x is less than negative 2 minus 8, which is just negative 10. And using the first tip that I showed you, we're going to divide this by negative 2, divide by negative 2, and notice we divided it by a negative number, thus the inequality sign flips. So we'll have x, we'll flip this, and then negative 10 divided by negative 2 is just positive 5. This is exactly the same. So I would consider doing another example, and this time involving fractions. Just an example of a linear inequality involving fractions. So first, it's very obvious to multiply both sides by 3, and then we have 3x plus 2, since this 3 and this 3 will cancel, and this is less than or equal to 6 times 3, which is just 18. And then we can just subtract 2 from both sides, that and that will cancel, so I have 3x is less than or equal to 16, and then we can just divide both sides. I'll just scroll down the board a bit. You can just divide both sides by 3, and then we're left with x is less than or equal to 16 over 3, or we can just simplify this into a mixed fraction. We get 5 1 over 3. These are the answers. So those are the examples of solving linear equations, and hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Please subscribe for more.